What's happening, friends? Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. Today's video is about a training plan to prepare for the next crypto bull market and to make yourself an expert on a niche within crypto. These are concrete steps that you can take starting today to give yourself an edge in a market that it's normally tough to compete in with whales and institutions. And before I go any further, I want to emphasize that although I'll talk about a number of projects and niches in this video, nothing I say is financial advice. I'm certainly not endorsing whether you should or should not invest in any of the things I talk about. Awesome. Let's get into the video. The first step is to pick a niche. The crypto market is so broad at this point that it's impossible to be an expert on everything. You have DeFi, you have NFTs. Within DeFi, you've got DEXs, lending protocols, you've got different chains, you've got gaming, and the list goes on and on and on. So there's no way you could know in depth about everything. And if you tried, then you'll eventually be outcompeted by people who specialize in one of these things. So if we go over to CoinGecko, then we can see the list of categories. And although this isn't an exhaustive list of niches, this should give you an idea of the sorts of options that are out there. And so the first thing you could do is you could pick a specific chain or ecosystem. And this is probably what most people do. I think this is also the riskiest because if you pick a chain that ends up never really having its time in the limelight, then it may be more difficult to have good returns. But many people will find that this is a good way to get started. And for example, people who specialized in Avalanche last year or Phantom last year did quite well because they got in so early to all the DeFi projects on those chains before they did 10, 20, 50x. So there were months and months where they were just accumulating and learning and getting very familiar with the ecosystem. Then when the crowd rushed in, they were already there positioned. And I mean, there's DeFi projects that did 100x on those chains last year. Cosmos is another interesting one because a lot of people are talking about Cosmos right now. They're starting to get some attention. Another thing you could do is you could pick types of protocols rather than chains. So for example, you might choose decentralized exchanges, right? You might choose DEXs. And if you chose that, you would have gotten into Thorchain early, you would have gotten into Uniswap and SushiSwap early, depending on when you entered the market. You would have been into PancakeSwap early, Trader Joe, and you would have just been able to intuitively understand which things would make DEXs unique and would give them an advantage in terms of outcompeting other DEXs in the market. And you can see there's just a ton of options here. There's gaming, of course, metaverse, privacy coins. I mean, you could even do something that is even more niche, like music, for example. Total market cap right now is around 260 million. And there are also some music NFTs. There's applications related to music NFTs that don't yet have a token. But think about how big the music industry is, right? It's multi-billion-dollar industry. Probably tens or hundreds of millions of dollar industry. And think of, if you believe in NFTs, eventually some of that money will probably find its way to music NFTs. How many people have their pulse on music NFTs right now? How many people have their finger on the pulse? I would wager less than 100, right? Maybe 50. People really understand everything that's going on in music NFTs. So with dedicated work, but with just a few months of dedicated work, you could be one of the top 100 people in this emerging field. And that's just one example. I mean, even something that's not very sexy like exchange tokens. And part of the reason I'm going through so many different niches is that way you can understand that there's a lot of options out here. But take exchange tokens. BNB has probably minted more millionaires than almost any other crypto. ETH, Bitcoin, probably more. But BNB, aside from the fact that it did a 40x by itself during the last bull run, BNB also provided other opportunities like the Binance Smart Chain, so people got in early to coins like PancakeSwap and did incredible multiples on those. FTX, CRO, and KuCoin shares all also did incredible multiples, 20x or so at their peak. So there's just a lot of opportunities, even in things that might not be that flashy. So the first step is, as I said, choose a niche. The second step is what you're going to do is you're going to research one project and you're going to test that project every single day. And I would say set a goal of doing this every day for a month, and then you can reassess. So after you've picked your niche, say you picked decentralized exchanges, then you're going to go to Uniswap and you're going to go to the application. You're going to test it out. If it's Uniswap, you've probably used it before. But then what you're going to do is you're going to go to the docs. And Uniswap, because it's such a large application, has very in-depth docs, but you're going to understand exactly how it works, why they made some of the design decisions they did. There might be things you don't even know about Uniswap. You're going to read the white paper. Yes, it's technical, but again, we're trying to become an expert in it. So it's good to have at least a high level knowledge of some of these technical things, even if you wouldn't have been able to derive the math yourself. But the more familiar you can become, the better. And then that'll be your first day, right? We'll be researching a project like this, and then you'll move on to another project. Maybe you want to choose a smaller DEX, or maybe you want to choose Thorchain, right? The next largest one in terms of market cap. So you go to Thorchain and you start reading the various documentation about that. You try to understand, why is Thorchain able to do cross-chain swaps of native assets? Why is that so valuable? What are some of the upcoming things that Thorchain is launching, and why do they make those decisions? And then you'll just go on and on and on. And at first it's like, okay, you understand Uniswap, understand Thorchain, but by day 20 or 30, you'll have gone through dozens of those projects. And the cool thing is you'll start to see patterns. So back during the fall, when I was doing my Yield Farm Friday videos, every Friday I would review a ton of yield farms from viewer requests and all those sorts of things. I was reviewing probably 5 to 10 yield farms a week, sometimes even more. And after doing that for a couple months, I had reviewed hundreds of yield farms. And what happens at that point? Well, what happens is you start to be able to review things in 5 to 10 minutes a lot of times, because you can go and you can say, okay, I understand how that mechanism works. I don't need to read all the details again. That thing's new, I'll check that out. Or you say this project is basically a fusion of these two, and you get a framework for understanding things that allows you to make these mental jumps and can save yourself a lot of time. And then you start to intuitively see when something is new, because you'll say, oh, that's a feature that a lot of other DEXs needed. I noticed they needed it, and then these people are offering it. And that's how you can start to really find things early and have an educated assessment of whether it will do well. So that is the second step. You are going to research a new project every single day. Step 3, synthesize your research into one piece of content every week. You can do more if you want to, but my challenge to you is to create one piece of content every week, and that can be in whatever method you feel most comfortable. That could be a YouTube video like I do. That could be a Twitter thread. It could be a Substack article. It could be a Reddit post. It could even be something like a Twitter space. The important thing is that you are producing some sort of content to share your research. And the reason for that is not only does that provide value to other people and allow you to network, but even if other people don't read it, it helps you to synthesize the information yourself and to collect it and figure out what's important. So for example, once a week on Twitter, I create a thread of the most important DeFi statistics from the past 7 days. And I've been doing this for over 4 months now. So I include things like total value locked, stable coins, revenue, DEX volume, bridge flows, all these different stats. And then I collect it into one thread and try to sort of construct narratives over what might be going on in the market from this. And the thing is, when I first started making these, they were not getting very many likes or shares at all. They were getting sometimes 10 likes, 5 likes. And now they're still not doing as exceptional as some people's content, but regularly now they get 100, 200 likes and a large number of shares on these threads. So it's great that people are watching it, but the important thing is that even before people were sharing it, it was a worthwhile exercise for me, because if I was looking at these stats anyways, it's easy to read things and have it go in your head and out without you really processing what the implication is. But by creating this thread where I publicly published my analysis of it, I was forced to actually synthesize the information that I was learning. So for example, imagine you're specializing in games and you try out 6-7 new games every week. Then maybe you write a Substack article about the most interesting one you found. Or you might start to notice trends, right? You might start to say, okay, a lot of these types of games seem to be performing relatively well, or you go down a rabbit hole of trying out a certain variety of game, maybe games with a certain theme or games with a certain style of game. and you write a Substack article comparing those games. And that's going to really help you synthesize the information that you are learning. So that is step 3, create one piece of content every week. In fact, to encourage people to take this challenge, if you create a piece of content as a part of this challenge and you tag me in the comments, then I will retweet it on Twitter. You have my word, provided it's not something weird or inappropriate, of course. And the 4th and final step, my challenge to you, is to get involved in some sort of project yourself. This is what's going to take you from being a knowledgeable person about a topic to being a true expert. And this is really important because it's easy to make recommendations and suggestions when you're a consumer, but when you're actually a producer and creating a project, you'll start to have a better frame of reference for how long things take and what's possible. Additionally, it's going to be fulfilling because we are in a bear market now, so it could be a while before the prices recover on some of these things. But in the meantime, if you're building, then you'll be engaged in the space and you'll be fulfilled regardless of what price action does. And a final and really important reason why getting involved is so crucial to your future success is that you will make new connections and you will network. And this doesn't have to be you working a full-time job, right? This could be you being a moderator within a community, right? Or it could be you helping to create educational content for some sort of project. But if you're doing that, then you might get to know some developers on the project, right? And imagine that one of those developers leaves to launch their own project eventually, and they tell you, hey Patrick, I'm leaving to launch this thing. Then that could be an opportunity for you to get in on the ground floor of a new project where you already know the founder. And I can't tell you enough how valuable that is. We talk about anon versus not anon. Imagine people you know versus people you don't know. That is an actual edge and advantage that you can give yourself by getting to know founders. And those are the 4 steps that I'd recommend as your training plan to prepare for the next crypto bull market and become a verified expert in a niche. That is, pick a niche. And those are the steps that I'd recommend to prepare for the next crypto bull market and to become an expert in a subsector of crypto. Pick a niche, research one project per day, produce one piece of content per week, and get involved in a community or project yourself. Let me know if you're going to take this challenge down in the comments and what niche you decide to pick. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. That really helps the channel out. Till next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.